My father's dedication to his life was to serve family, church, friends, and community. This belief came from a war story and how he made a commitment to serve God. In occupied Germany, my father's job was to remove explosive mines in the field in advance of his troops. Near the end of the war, his fear of death became strong with the loss of many friends he had come to know. One day, a soldier on his return from the front lines met my father. The soldier told him how he survived the front lines through prayer. He gave my father a prayer card of Santo Niño de Atoche and told him to pray for the special grace of faith. My father kept a prayer card with him throughout the rest of the war. He prayed to saints such as St. Luke the Evangelist, patron saint for artists, writers, and craftsmen, and Jude of lost causes, patron of lost opportunity, direction, and lost objects. These saints were very special heroes of my father throughout his life. Santo Niño de Atoche is the first saint my father prayed to during World War II. It was this saint that gave him the faith needed to survive the war.
Memories of my dad. Well, my memories of my dad are filled with spoiled moments. I was so mad at my dad at the end that he wouldn't go to the doctor. Sometimes at night I would cry because I felt so guilty I didn't take him. Especially the night when I talked to him and said, "Dad, please let me call the ambulance to take you to the hospital." He said, "I will go tomorrow," but tomorrow was too late. That's the biggest regret I hold in my heart forever. Well, one thing I'm happy about is before he died, I said to him, "I love you, Dad," and he nodded his head. That's one thing I never told him. I know now that he is at peace and in a better place.
Looking back to the time when I was just a child, my memory of Dad was that of someone with wisdom and willingness to teach me the ropes of life. Being, as Dad would say, hard-headed, I took his advice somewhat sparingly. I felt that life was just too short to miss anything exciting. Funny thing is, for an 8-year-old, nothing really exciting was happening anyway. But I do remember one time in grade school, I found myself once again in trouble for talking back to my teacher. I claimed I only talked back because I thought, well, maybe being a nun with her ears covered, she couldn't hear me anyway. I was told that I couldn't return to school until I had one of my parents talk to my teacher. And all that night, I found myself unable to bring the subject up because my dad was in such a good mood all day, and I didn't want to spoil his mood with my little incident at school. So the next morning came way too soon for me. Next thing I know, I'm in the car headed for school. What to do, what to do. That was all I could think of. I guess my dad noticed the uneasy look on my face because when he stopped the car at the school parking lot, he looked at me with a smile and said, "Okay, what have you done now?" As I was telling him my victim of circumstance story, the busload of nuns pulled up, and sure enough, my teacher sees me and starts heading towards us. My dad tells me to leave the car and that he would deal with me later. I really don't know to this day what was said between my dad and Sister Augustine, but when class was over, she pulled me aside and said, "Your dad is a very pleasant gentleman. You must be very proud of him." I can only guess whatever my dad had said to her, it took the wisdom of life to handle the situation. I still look back to those times as a child and now as an adult, and I thank God, I thank God every day for my dad being there for me. When I really needed him, Dad was always there. Thanks, Dad, for teaching me the ropes of life. And for me, I guess it's better late than never.
Memories of my father. I'll always remember my dad as a generous, handsome, and loving man who was never selfish. He was always giving and expected nothing in return. He was a dedicated elder of his church and worked countless hours helping others. My memories of my dad are so much clearer now that I'm a parent. When I got engaged, I told my dad, as he laid half asleep in bed, that my future husband, Joe, asked me to marry him. He said, "Okay, Mom," and that was it. I think he saw it coming. August of 1974, he walked me down the aisle, and he kept telling me not to be nervous and just smile. He never showed any emotion on how he felt that day, and I never asked. We never had that father and daughter conversation on such matters. Even through his silence, I always knew he cared. I miss my dad.
There are so many memories that my husband left. My husband was an extraordinary man. His love, he loved his parish. and worked very hard to build a new church. His beautiful transformation of life was through God. This wonderful person was my husband and left many memories behind. He was always kind to people, always thinking how to help people. He always loved his family. He never left his family. He was conscious of his little grandchildren. I can remember the happiness in his face when we went to see each baby that was born. He showed it in his face how happy he was that he had new grandchildren. When we brought those babies home, I took care of them. And he was helping me all the time. When he'd go to Mass every morning. When he'd come home, he'd take both babies in his arms and laugh and dance and showed so much love for them. He was so happy with his family. He left us so many memories.